All right. Hi, guys. Good evening. Welcome to the next session. So this is session 4 of the full stack development track, right, for the IIDT internship. So yes, this is session 4. And again, we have talked about a bunch of things already. And today also we'll focus on HTML and we'll try to finish off HTML in today's session. But before we begin, let me know in the chat if you can see me, hear me, and also see the screen properly. So if everything is good, just say hi, good evening, okay, something in the chat, so that I know the setup is good and we can start. Again, as always, I have YouTube open on the side. So for people who are joining YouTube from YouTube live also, I can read your chats as well. That's also open. And of course, Zoom is also open. So yes, the setup is all good. Perfect. Great. Let's get started. So before we get to the topic or the agenda for today, I just want to share one quick thing with you so that you know where all the code is and you get access to the installation document and all of that. So if you remember, I have created a repository and I shared it in the previous session also. But just in case you were not there in the previous session, here is the link to that repository. So please take a screenshot of the screen or just note this down. This is basically the link to the repository. So I'll quickly open this also and I'll show you what this contains, right? So that you get an idea of what is there in the repository. So I will just share my screen again in 1 minute. Just 1 second. Yes, so hopefully you can see the screen now. So this is the GitHub repository that I've created for this particular course, right? So you will find session-wise materials over here. As you can see, so I have session 1, full stack fundamentals. When you open this, you will see the session PDF, which is the slides from the session. And you'll also find the code from the session, as you can see, right? So session as well as, the HTML file. So all the code that we have written in all the sessions, I have already uploaded it in this particular repository. So this is where everything will be, right? Again, I will put the link in the chat once again for you guys. So please make sure you keep this link with you at all times. This is the link where you will find everything with respect to the sessions, right? So everything to do with the session, the installation instructions are also available in the same link, right? So I've pasted the link in the chat. In both the chats, I've pasted the link in the Zoom chat also. I've pasted the link in the YouTube chat also, right? So please make sure that you keep this link with you and just make sure you copy this, take a screenshot, do whatever it is. But yes, just make sure that the link is always available with you, right? So that way you will have access to everything that we do in the course at all times. All right. So yes, again, I was getting a lot of questions regarding installation documents not received or regarding, you needed the code or you needed the presentation. So this is where everything is. Again, for people who have just joined, what you see on the screen is a link to the GitHub repository for this particular program, right? So in this link, you will find session-wise presentations, session-wise slides, and session-wise code also, right? So everything that we do in the next sessions also, I will put in the same link. So just make sure that you keep this link with you. I've shared it a lot of times in the chat already. You can see this on the screen as well. So make sure you just copy this link and you keep it with you. Again, I am sharing it in the chat a couple of times, right? So please check the link and please make sure that you have access to this. For people who have not installed anything, again, I am telling you installation instructions are available in this link itself, right? If you just go back, so I'll just show you. If you just open the repository, you will find there is a PDF here, software installation instructions, right? So if you just open this PDF, I have mentioned everything that you need to install step by step. As you can see, instructions for Visual Studio Code, for Google Chrome, Node.js, MongoDB, Git, GitHub, everything that we will need in this course, everything is available in this link, right? So make sure you have this link with you and make sure to use it, right? So that you can install everything if you haven't installed it already, okay? So yes, that was the first thing I wanted to tell you. Everything going forward also, everything in the course will be available in the same URL, in the same repository. I will update it on a daily basis. So as and when our session gets over, I will upload the code and the PPT in that link. right? Perfect. So that is a quick update on the repository. Again, if you have a doubt, please put it in the chat. If you keep raising hands, I will not be able to help you because we have so many people here. So it is not possible to give you mic access. Just put your questions in the chat. I have chat open everywhere. And yeah, you can just, right? You can just ask your questions in the chat. So that way I will be able to help you better. Right? Yes, I'm going to the recap part now. Don't worry. We'll do a recap every session. I just wanted to clarify this first, right? Regarding the assignment, the second thing is, so once we finish off today's session, which is the HTML session, then you will get an assignment on HTML. So there are 8 questions, 7 or 8 questions in that one, and you need to submit HTML code in that assignment, right? So yes, I will give you access to that assignment, and everything we'll share with you soon. But as of now, we don't need any of that, right? So just answer poll questions when prompted here in the session, or just answer questions when asked in the session, and that should be enough. Okay, if you can't copy the link, please take a screenshot of what you see on the screen and please type it out in the browser. The link is available on the screen, right? That is the best I can do. So yes, please make sure that you copy this link somehow. Take a screenshot right now of this slide because the link is available on the slide itself. That is why I put the link on the slide in the first place, right? Perfect. So this is the first thing. The second thing, like I said, regarding the project, right? So you will get access to the assignments and everything after HTML is done, because right now we don't have enough knowledge to do something, right? So today's session, we'll finish off HTML and then you will get access to the assignment. So there is an HTML assignment. There'll be one assignment every topic. For every topic, there'll be 7 to 8 questions which you need to work on. That will be on the LMS, right? So when you need to know about that, I will tell you, don't worry. For now, you should only focus on understanding HTML, right? Perfect. That brings us to the agenda for today. So today we are going to finish off HTML by talking about a few other tags which are left out, which we haven't discussed so far. So that's what's coming up in the session today. But again, before we jump into that, there are 3 logic questions for you. So there are 2 logic questions, and then there is one more technical sort of a question. So gradually we'll be moving more towards technical questions and less logical questions. So as always, I will show you the question on the screen. I will give you 1 minute to think about it, and then you can put your answers in the chat. So again, if you're on Zoom chat, please use Zoom chat. If you're watching on YouTube live, again, I have that open on the side as well. So you can use YouTube chat as well. And wherever you are, you can ask questions. I am looking at both. So I will respond to both the chats. Right? Perfect. So again, I've put the link on in both the chats several times on Zoom also, as well as on YouTube also. Perfect. Here is the first question. So this one says, I have cities but no houses. I have mountains but no trees. I have water but no fish. What am I? So again, I'll give you a minute or 2 minutes. Think about it. Put your answers in the chat, and then we'll discuss the correct answer and move to the next one. Okay, perfect. So I've received a couple of answers. The one answer is aquarium. Aquarium is not the right answer. There is no talk about cities and all of that in aquarium, but yes, map is the correct answer. So everybody who is given map as the correct answer is on point. So a map perfectly fits this description, right? A map has cities but no houses. A map has mountains but no trees. A map has water but no fish. So map is the correct answer. Perfect. Let's quickly move to the next question. So here is the next one. The next one says, I am tall when I am young and short when I am old. What am I? Again, think about it, put your answers in the chat, and then we'll move to the next question. Perfect. So there are 2 correct answers to this one actually. So candle is a correct answer. So yes, candle is, tall when young and old when used. And then pencil is also a correct answer. So again, pencil is tall when you get a new one, and then and when you keep using it, it will be short. So candle or pencil both fit the description. So both of them, are the correct answer to this one, right? And yes, again, matchstick and those kind of things will also fit. But generally speaking, candle and pencil, even eraser will satisfy this condition. So yes, there are a lot of correct answers here. But yes, candle, pencil, eraser, matchstick, any of those answers will work. Perfect. Here is the next one. Now, this is a little more technical, so I'll give you 1 extra minute for this because you need to give it a proper thought. So the question is, how do we add two numbers without using the addition operator, right? So how can we perform addition without the plus? Basically, without plus, how can we perform addition? That is the question. So yes, again, I'll give you 2 minutes and you can think, put your answers in the chat, then we'll discuss and move to the session. So we are not talking about ready-made functions here. We are not talking about anything. We are talking about mathematics. We are not talking about any programming language. We're not talking about any function. So no concatenation, no sum, nothing like that. Right? How can we do this mathematically? That is the question. Okay. So yes, give it a thought and then we'll discuss. Minus and then minus b, right? So when we have minus and minus, it will be plus. So this is the correct answer. So for everybody who has said this or something similar, you are on point. That's the correct answer. So yes, again, there are other ways which are very technical, like binary conversion or operator usage and operator, double greater than, and or I was not looking at any of that. I was looking for a very simple mathematical solution, and this is it. So again, minus minus is the correct answer for this one. Great. That is it in terms of the questions for the day. So yes, that hopefully was helpful. And again, we'll move to more technical questions along the way because again, when you sit for placements and when you attend interviews, you can expect these kind of questions in the technical round, the technical MCQ round, the coding round. You can expect some logical questions as MCQs over there. So that is what I am also trying to prepare you for with these questions. So yes, like I said, they will keep getting more technical along the way. Perfect. So that is the questions for now. Now let's jump to the session and continue our discussion on HTML. So let's quickly recap what we have done so far. And hopefully, so just send a yes in the chat if you have attended all the sessions prior to this one. We've had 3 sessions so far, right? Just send a yes in the chat if you have attended all of these sessions. So then you would know what I'm talking about in the next few sessions. And yes, that reminds me of one more thing. In case you want the session recordings, they are available on YouTube, right? So please go to youtube.com, look for Blackbuck Engineers YouTube channel, and you will find all the sessions over there. Right? Since it's also running on YouTube Live, as soon as the session ends, it becomes a video that is available on YouTube itself. So I will also be adding those links to the GitHub repository later today. So in the repository itself, you will also find links to all the sessions also, right? So we have taken examples, we have written the code. The code is also available in the repository. So hopefully this is also completely clear for you. Then we moved on to talking about media tags. This is what we discussed in the previous session, right? So we have talked about how to add images, how to add audio, video, how to add the iframe or external embeds using the iframe. So again, we have discussed all of these things in detail with examples. The code is available in the repository. So this is done, right? Then we move to tables in HTML. Again, we have discussed this in detail. We have discussed all the tags that are required generally for a table, right? So all the way from table, T head, T body, then table row, table header, right? Then table data. Everything has been discussed. We also know that HTML tables do not have columns. The number of elements that make up the number of items in a table row make up the number of columns, right? That is how a table works in HTML. So again, this is something that we know, right? And we've also discussed all of these tags. So we made this table, if you remember, we played this little game of name, place, animal thing, and we made a table for the same. Then we moved to forms in HTML. We will discuss more about forms later when we get to the backend part of it. We'll talk more about forms in detail, but we have understood basically what a form is. We've discussed the form tag and we've discussed several different types of input tags, right? So input is how forms take data from the user. So we've talked about different types of inputs like text, email, password, right? Then date, color. We have seen about 10, 15 different types, right? So again, this is something we discussed in the previous session. Hopefully this is also clear. right? Again, if you have any questions on these things, you can stay back at the end, and in the Q&A, you can ask me whatever doubts you have in these topics. But I hope the topics are clear. Again, the code is available in the repository. You can go and check that out whenever you want to recap these concepts. Perfect. Now moving to the next major bit for today, right? So this is where we are starting today's topic, which is to do with basically placement in HTML, or we also call this the boilerplate, right? So the technical term that we use for this, that you will read on the internet and hear about, is called the boilerplate. So we call it the HTML5 boilerplate, right? And for that, to get there, we have to understand how HTML treats different types of tags, right? So, we have already seen so many different tags, and you might have noticed a pattern. There are actually two types of elements that are available in HTML, and there are two types of elements available. The first category of elements is called block elements, right? Block elements, as you can see in this image, are basically elements that take up the full block, that take up the entire block. No matter how much space they need, they will still occupy the entire block, right? For example, let me just switch back to VS Code here. So yes, for example, right, if we are talking about a simple heading, let's say I put H1 and I just say hello. And after this, I put a paragraph, which is dummy content, right? Done. So if I refresh, as you can see right on the screen, so again, I request you guys to please not raise hands. I really can't do anything about it. I keep getting notifications for no reason. So please put your questions in the chat. I will help you over there. I cannot give you mic access. So it would be better if you don't raise hands. It just keeps popping up for no reason. Yes. So like I was saying, as you can see right over here, when we see hello, it will take up the rest of the entire block, which is this entire space, which it doesn't really need, because the text that we are putting in is still just hello. So this entire white space that you see next to it, this is still occupied by the H1 tag itself, because it will occupy the entire block or the entire row, right? So these elements are what we call block level elements in HTML. These elements take up the entire block no matter how much space they need. Even if you just put a single letter, let's say we just put H, for example, it will still take the full row with the full block. So these kind of elements are called block level elements in HTML, right? On the other hand, if I show you one more example, let's put a link, right? So let's say go to Google, for example, and I will just put href. I'll just leave it to empty for now. So I'll just put a hash to make it empty. And I will put, for example, let's say go to Amazon and go to YouTube. Okay, now when I refresh, you will see that these three links actually show up next to each other, but they don't show up under each other, right? So basically, these type of tags are called inline tags. Inline tags only take up as much space as they require, right? Inline tags only take up as much space as they need. They don't occupy the entire block, unlike this one, right? So this is block level elements, headings, paragraphs. Most of the other text tags like lists, tables, forms, um, all of these are block level. Forms are not block level. Input tags are inline. But yes, so most of the tags that we have discussed so far are block level, and some other tags, for example, links, images, audio, video, these tags are inline elements, right? Or inline tags. Does that make sense? Is this clear? Is the differentiation clear between the two? So block level elements take up the entire block, right? Whereas inline elements only take up as much space as they need. So they show up in line. Again, this diagram also very clearly explains it. So these are block level. They will push the next element onto the next block or the next line. Whereas inline elements will try to fit in as many as possible in the same line. That is why they're called inline, right? So again, let me know in the chat. Just put a yes or clear if you have understood this. Again, this is a very common interview question that is asked. What is the difference between block and inline elements in HTML? Or which elements are block level and which elements are inline level? So here are a few examples of the same, as you can see, right? So we'll discuss these two elements, but you can see the differentiation here, right? So these are blocks of code, right? So these are blocks, and you can see here, so you have red, blue, green, these different formatting and everything in the same line. So that makes it an inline element. So that's inline versus block, right? Now, coming to these two tags that you see on the screen, div and span, these two tags are extremely important. And now let me go ahead and explain them to you, right? So first up, again, to quickly recap, we have two types of elements in HTML. We have block level elements, which take up the entire block or the entire row when we put them on the screen. For example, text tags like headings, etc., they take up the entire block, no matter how much content they actually have. So like we saw, even if you put a single character, it still takes up the entire block. Versus inline elements, for example, links, images, audio, video, these are some inline elements. They will take up only as much space as they need. Right? As you can see over here in the output, this one takes up the entire block. Right? So this is a block level because it pushes the paragraph to the next line. It could have, if it was inline, it could have adjusted the paragraph over here itself. Right? The paragraph could have started immediately after H, but that is not happening. It is pushed to the next line or the next block. So that is why we call it block level. And then as you can see here in this case, in the links case, one link is only taking up as much space as it needs, right? This much. Then the next link shows up. It only takes up as much space as it needs. And then again, the third link shows up and so on and so on and so on. So these are inline elements. Right? So I hope the difference is now clear. These are the two different types of elements. And now we have two different tags that are available to contain our code. So these tags that we are now discussing, are basically tags that are going to help us group things together or individually select things. I'll talk about them one by one, right? So let's move to the first tag that of this category. So like I said, what these tags do is they allow us to group elements together, right? They do not really modify the content in any way. But as like we probably, like we also saw in the very first session, if you remember, I showed you a couple of outputs, right? Like what is a header, what is a footer. So there we saw things being grouped together, right? So header contains three, four things. It contains a background image, it will contain a button, a call to action, it will contain some heading, it will contain some paragraph, right? So to group them together, we use a tag called div tag. Okay, so let me show that to you now. Let me just make a comment here. So block level, and then this is inline. So I'm just putting these comments in so that when you look at the code later, you understand what it is. And now moving to div container. Okay, so now the tag is very simple. It is this div, that's it, right? Div tag. And this is used to group things together. So if I just put div and if you see the output, so I'll just comment this out as well. So we don't have anything on the screen right now. I will refresh, right? So as you can see, even if I've put the div tag, there is nothing in the output at all. Why? Because div itself is not a text tag. Div itself is not a content tag. Unless and until we give some other tag inside div, it is useless, right? So div is only used for containing or wrapping things up. Right? So think of it like a section on the page, right? So if we have this section and then we have heading, we have paragraph, let's say we have some image here, we have a link over here. So this grouping will be done with a div. That is what the div tag lets us do, right? So what we can do is inside the div, we can then go ahead and add whatever we want. For example, let's say this is a heading, right? Then we can have another N4 kind of a thing, which could be this is a subheading. After this, we can add a button. So again, there is a button tag in HTML, very simple, button opening, button closing, and we can say click to buy, for example. Now, if we refresh, you'll see the three things will show up. So again, we have discussed one new thing here, which is button, very simple, opening button and closing button. That's it. We'll discuss how to make it a link and perform the tasks when we move to the backend, but this is what a button tag is, right? So as you can see, this entire thing is grouped now in one div, right? This is what we use when we again go to styling, which is our next task. So after we finish off HTML today, from the next session onwards, we'll be focusing on CSS, right? So CSS is where we need all of these tags, right? So this is one tag div. So typically when we make a web page, what we do is we put multiple divs, right? So we have, let's say, header. This is one div. Then we can have another div which will contain our footer. So for footer, we have P, for example, and let's say this contains some copyright symbol, right? So copyright 20, let's say 2000, some company name. Com we can have all rights, so etc etc. So all of this will be the footer, for example, right? So this shows up, this is the footer, and then we will have other divs here. For example, this can be the main content. So let's put 2 3 paragraphs which are just dummy data which make up our main content, and for now we can separate them with the HR tag. So we can visually see the differentiation between them. Generally we do this through CSS, where we have different colors for different sections, but for now we can see that this is our header, then there is a line, this is our main content, then there is a line, then this is our footer at the end, right? So this grouping that we are doing, this is happening with the help of the div tag. Perfect. So this is div. This is used to group multiple elements together. Why do we need to group them? Let us say, for example, that we want to add a common color, a common background color to these 3 paragraphs. How can we do this? Let me just show you. So if we just try, let's just say, again, this is not a part of this session. We'll talk more about it later. I just want to show you how this works. That is why I am doing this. So don't worry about this just yet, right? So if I put one background color to one paragraph, and similarly, if we put the same background color to all 3 paragraphs, they don't look like a part of the same section. As you can see, right? These paragraphs look like individual elements. They don't look like it's the same container or it's the same section. But instead, what we did is we put them together in the div tag. So if we put this background color to the div instead, then this entire section looks together. As you can see, now this looks like this is one section on the page, right? So this is what the div tag is responsible for. It lets us group things together so that we can style them together. That way, all of it looks like a part of the same page. So again, it's a styling thing. We'll use it for styling. It does not add any content on its own, right? So this is your div tag. Okay. I hope that is clear now. Perfect. Now the next tag that we have is the span tag. So div is used to group things together. Span is used to target a specific part of the text. For example, let us say that you want to highlight this text in a different way. Now we know what we can do with HTML. We can make it bold, italic, or underline, but that is it. Right? We can't really change the color. We can't really add a background color to it. Let us say that there is an offer or something and you want to highlight this part, for example. How do we do it? That is where the span tag comes in. So what the span tag lets us do is, for example, what we can do is we can cover this up or wrap it in a span tag, right? So opening span and closing span like this, and hold on, span like this. Now we can add our style over here. So now if I change the background color to, let's say, green, for example, and let's put this. So now you will see that just part of the text is styled differently, right? So again, span and div are 2 tags which help us group or highlight selected parts of the code. So div is used to group things together. And on the other hand, the span tag is used to individually select or highlight specific parts of text generally. So I hope again this makes sense, right? So again, let me know in the chat if div and span is clear now. These are 2 new tags that we have discussed, div and span. So div is used to group things together. Span is used to highlight individual parts of text. That is the general use case for both these tags. Clear? Perfect. So these are again 2 new tags that we have discussed, and we've also discussed button along with it. So that is a bonus for you. Now, quickly, one more question for you guys. This is for people who probably have some experience with HTML or have, spent some time with this before. Let us say that you want to include the copyright symbol, right? Remember, there's a copyright symbol like this. We have C and this round that shows up. Or for trademark, we have this TM, right? This symbol. For registered, we have this symbol. And we have a couple of other symbols that are also there. So how do we add these? Do you have any idea? How do we add these in HTML? If you do, you can just put it in the chat. And of course, I will show it to you. So for people who don't have any idea, don't worry. I will show it to you. But just wanted to check if you know. Okay, yes. So some of you have replied with the correct answer. So again, these are basically special tags. We call them character entities, right? So the technical term again is character entities in HTML. And these are basically special characters that HTML supports. So the general format is this. We have an ampersand, then the character that we want, and a semicolon. So this is the general format, right, for a character entity. And this one is for copyright. So ampersand copy, this will give us copyright, as you can see, right? I've just put ampersand copy. So the browser understands this. We call them entity, as you can see, character entity. Right? If you just hover over it, it also shows you character entity. That's what I've written over here. So you can see we get this copyright symbol automatically. So we don't need to, add an image for that or add a logo for that separately. Some of these things, the most common things are already supported by HTML. So this is one, right? Then again, we have a couple of other things. For example, there is something called this is for trademark. You can see this TM, right? Like subscript, superscript TM shows up at the top of the text. Right? That is there. Then we have something called ampersand REG. This is for that registered thing, right? So you can see this R for registered. So again, so on and so on and so on. There are a lot of these. I will not tell you everything, but yes, this is what we generally have. And then, you might have seen on a lot of websites that they generally put made with love in, for example, let's say made with love in India, right? So now what they would do is instead of love, they put a heart instead. So for that, what we can do is we can put ampersand and then hearts. So this is something that, shows up like a heart. So this is another entity that HTML supports. Again, it's a character entity. Now, the next question for you is, let us say that I want to make this heart red in color. Which tag will I use? Do I use the div tag or the span tag? I want to, let's say, make this heart red in color. So which of these will we use? Perfect. We'll use the span tag. Why? Because we're highlighting a specific part of the page. We are not grouping things together. If I were to say that we want to group them together, then we would use the div. Right? But since we want to highlight, we will use span instead. So we can use span like this, right? Opening and closing, put it between the span tag like so. And then we can, again, this is something we'll discuss later, but we can just put color red. So you can see it becomes red. Right? So now it looks better. It looks more natural, like a normal red heart. Right. So again, this is the use case of a span tag. Whenever we want to highlight a certain part of the code or a certain part of text, generally we use the span tag. Right. So yes, that is what we have discussed. We have discussed the div and span. So as you can see in the output now this image, now this slide will make a lot more sense to you, right? So in the case of divs, what we do is we use it to group things together. So you can see we have a common background color for different sections of the page. And in the case of span, instead, what we have is we have red, blue, and green. So highlighting specific parts or specific portions of the text. That is what we use the span tag for, right? Perfect. So these are the div and spans. And yes, that is a discussion on the block level and inline elements that we needed to have on HTML. Again, now let's take the first round of questions if there is anything in the chat. Other questions can be anything in general from previous sessions also. If there is a doubt, please let me know. I will definitely help you out. And if there are any other questions regarding this session, please let me know. Again, the assignment questions will be addressed later. The link questions have already been addressed, right? I have given you the repository, so you have access to that also now, right? So if you have anything else which is topic specific, please let me know. I would be more than happy to help. Perfect. Explain the work of HR. So, Rupa, the HR tag basically is used to draw this line that you see, right, from one end of the screen to the other end of the screen. This line is coming from this HR. So, if I remove the HR, you will see the line goes away. That is what the HR tag does. It's called horizontal rule, which is a line from the left end of the screen to the right end of the screen. That is the HR tag. All right, let's take the next question. We can use span and div. Yes, yes, Shiny. You can use both span and div at the same time. Like you can see here, we have a div, and then inside this we put a span to make this red. So yes, we can use span and div at the same time because they have two different purposes. Div is used for grouping and span is used for highlighting. So it's actually the exact opposite of each other. Grouping is when we are putting things together. Highlighting is when we want to individually select something. So yes, we can use them together. Yes, that also explains the difference between the two. So I'll skip all the difference questions. Again, so adding color is a CSS thing. Lakshmi will talk about it from the next session onwards when we move to CSS. For now, I just want to explain to you HTML. So div and span. To make the difference clear, I just use the color for today, but we'll discuss more about it in the CSS part. Yes, so good question. So Venkatesh is asking how to change block elements to inline elements. You can change it. There's a property called display, which is a CSS thing again. So we'll discuss how to do that with CSS. Using that, what we can do is we can change a block level to inline. We can change an inline element to block. We can do that. But again, that will happen with CSS. Will you teach backend also? Yes, I will take backend sessions also. So this is like a 3.5 month journey that we are on, right? So we start with front end because we generally see output on the screen that gives us more confidence. So that is where we are discussing front end now. And yes, we will move to backend also once the front end concepts are done. Okay, I'll take a few questions from YouTube also. So why we use p tag in TD? TD itself displays content? No. So Jagdish, again, TD is a container tag. It is not a text tag. So you can put anything in a TD. You can put image, you can put audio, video, anything inside a TD. So TD with try putting, like an empty TD, it will not show you anything on the screen, right? So that's a container tag. We need to put some content inside it, which can be any other valid tag. But yes, even if you don't put anything in HTML, it will still work. See, for example, if I don't put any tag, right? Let's say I comment out everything and I just put random text like this, it will still show up as you can see. So that is, HTML will never give you any error as such. But again, that does not make it good code. So that is the difference between, good code and bad code in this case. So good code is when you have the correct tags being used for the correct purposes. So TD is a container tag, P is a text tag. So whenever you want to add any text, use a paragraph. When you want to add a container or a table data, use a TD. But again, don't put empty text. So there should not be random text without any text tag. That is bad code, right? Yes, there are some other emojis that are also supported in HTML. You can check out W3 School's documentation. Just look for HTML character entities. There are a lot of things supported, including, some of these emojis also. So yes, you can definitely check that out as well. Yes, again, Harsha, height and width are a CSS thing, but yes, you can increase the height and width for the HR also. You can set that for the HR also. So yes, there are a couple more questions. I think we'll discuss them later because otherwise we'll run out of time. But yes, I'm trying to take up as many questions as I can. Again, so there are a few questions about the form tag. We'll talk more about forms later when we go to the backend side of things. For now, you just need to know input, which you know already. So we have the form tag and several types of inputs. We'll go into the details of it, the label tag and all of those things later because we need to understand one more concept before we can discuss labels and all. So yes, we'll move to that soon. Yes, yes, Mohammed, we can add several different sections using different divs. I am just coming to that. That is the boilerplate actually. Perfect. Again, for people who are asking for the attendance link, I do not have the attendance link. Like we have said so many times, the attendance link will come to your email. It will be shared on the WhatsApp groups. It is an automated link. So when you click to join the meeting, your attendance is automatically recorded. I cannot send a link to you, right? If it's not coming again, please reach out to your point of contacts. They will have it. I don't have access to the attendance link, so I cannot share it with you, right? Sorry about that. But yes, so yes, I think let's jump in now and continue to the next topic. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. Somebody asked for the YouTube link. I am putting that in the chat. So this is the YouTube live link in case you want to join over there. But yes, I have sent that as well. In the backend, we are going to cover JavaScript, right? So we are going to discuss the Moon stack. So it runs on JavaScript. So yes, our backend will be on JavaScript. Okay, perfect. So now I'm moving to the next topic, and then we'll come back to the questions in 5 to 10 more minutes. We'll discuss one concept and then come back to the questions, right? So the next topic is something called the HTML5 boilerplate. And as you can see, the image on the left-hand side, this actually is the boilerplate that is available in HTML. So just like every programming language, right, HTML also has a syntax that we need to follow. And so far, unfortunately, we have not followed it. So everything that we have written so far, in fact, all the code that we have written so far is invalid HTML. This is not valid HTML because we have not formatted this correctly. We have not followed the recommended format of an HTML document. So that is what I'm about to show you now, right? Just like every other programming language, you have certain rules and regulations and certain ways to do certain things. So in a similar way, HTML also has some rules and guidelines for us, which is the boilerplate, right? So, just like our body is, so rather our human is, we have two parts to our body, two major parts, right? We have the head and then we have the rest of the body. And that is what is available in HTML also, right? So that is how HTML also works basically. The white screen that you see, this entire white space that we see in the browser where we have been working with so far, this is just one part of the page. It is called the body of the page, right? And this is where everything that needs to be seen by the user that will go. So that is the body that HTML contains. And again, it is inspired by our own body. So everything that is visible on the outside, that is called the body, right? On the other hand, all the backend connectivity, all the logic, all the processing, all the linking, all of that, loading required files and all that stuff happens in our brains, in humans, right? It happens in our brains, which is in our head. So in the exact same way, what HTML does is it gives us two tags. So first up, we have to put the HTML tag. Then it gives us two tags. There is the head of the page and there is the body of the page. So this is a very basic version of a valid HTML page. This is still not valid. We still need to add a few more tags to it. But yes, so like I said, just like our human body works or our human we work, a head contains everything that is not visible to the user and body contains everything that is visible to the user. So everything that we have done so far, all this white space stuff that goes in the body tag. So this is where we'll add our heading and paragraph and all of those things, right? On the other hand, head contains all the backend stuff. So when we connect to the database, that logic will be written here. When we add a CSS file, we'll link to the CSS over here. If you want to use a custom font from Google, a custom styling from somewhere else, all of that will go in the head and the in the head basically, and everything that needs to be shown to the user that goes in the body. Let me show you an example. So there is only one thing which is visible in the head, which is this title of the page, right? So this thing that you see on the browser, I've just highlighted it in red, right? This tab name is what the title of the page is. So by default, it takes the file name, as you can see, and we can modify this with the title tag. So there is a title tag available. We can just say, for example, HTML5 demo. For example, let's say this is what I'm putting. Now, pay attention here. As soon as I refresh, you will see index.html now changes to HTML5 demo. But then again, this section is never visible to the user. Users don't pay attention to this section. What they focus on is this white space. So again, everything that is hidden from the user, all the functionality, logic, connectivity, all of that is in the head, right? And then everything that is visible to the user, all the stuff that the user can see or interact with, that goes in the body. Okay, so this is the first part. This is head and title. And then again, head contains a couple of other things. For example, link tag for CSS. Then there are some other meta tags, which we'll talk about later. So these meta tags are used for search engine optimization. And have you guys heard of this term, SEO? If yes, just put a yes in the chat, right? Have you heard of the term SEO? I'm sure you have, right? That is search engine optimization. So what we can do is we can put those things inside the head as well, right? So we have something, for example, there is something called meta, and we can put a description. So this is a standard meta tag that we use for search engines, right? And this is a single tag. So again, here we can put keywords equal to, and we can put the keywords. So all of this stuff is read by search engines like Google, like Bing, like other search engines. They read these keywords, and based on this, they will categorize the page and show them to the user, right? So that is basically what we use meta tags for. Again, there are pros and cons, and good practices and bad practices, but it's a marketing thing, so I am not going to discuss those here. But yes, if at any point of time, let's say you're working in a team and a marketing team member comes to you and tells you we need to add meta tags, that is where they go inside the head, right? But yes, we'll focus on the body for most of our workflow. And then again, in the backend, we'll discuss a little more about the head tag. But for now, we are focusing on the body. Remember, we discussed that there is a div that is available, for grouping things together. So generally, like we discussed, a website contains a couple of things. We have header, let's say we have main section one, right? Then we can have, for example, say section two, then we can have section three, right? This could be two. We can have 5 to 6 sections on a page, right? So we have, let's say, section four, section five, and then we will have our footer. So this is a problem, right? Because we have so many, it becomes confusing. Right? We have so many div tags that it becomes confusing to figure out what is going on the page. For this, what the HTML5 team came up with is that they just gave some other names. Basically, they copy pasted the div tag and just changed the names to make it better to understand for the developer. Again, this is from the semantic tag category. So remember, we talked about the strong tag and the EM tag, and I told you that they were semantic, they were meaningful tags. In the exact same way, there are a couple more tags that were added in HTML5, which make more sense, which are more meaningful in that sense. So let me show you some of them. So first up, we have header. Header is a valid tag in HTML, nothing but a div. It is the exact same thing as a div, but with a different name. That's it. That is what a header is. So naturally, also, which is the exact thing, right? Then we have something called a nav. Nav is for a navigation bar, right? So nav bar generally. Then we have two more tags. We have a section and an article. So typically, if you look at a blog post, right, how it works is you have, let's say, for example, this is a blog page, right? So there is one article. Right? This entire thing would be one article, and this article will then have several sections like this inside it. That's how typical blog works, right? You have the entire blog article, which contains sections in it. So inspired from that, what a lot of, what this HTML5 team came up with were two tags. So we have the tag, spell that right. So we have the article tag, which is the outermost tag, right? And then within this, we can have different sections. Now, again, this is something that people use the other way around also. You can put article inside either way, but the actual logic is the blog analogy, which is why article goes outside and sections go inside. So this could be one. Similarly, we can now have, so let's say this is your first main article. You can have second article, third article. So this could be, for example, let's say what people buy, best-selling products, something like that, right? So for example, this could be best sellers. Then this next article could be feedback section. And then this next article could be offers or discounts section, and so on. So now if you look at this piece of code, it looks better. It makes more sense, right? So we have header, okay. Then we have navbar, okay. Then we have one article, second article, third article, and then the footer. So imagine if everything was replaced just by divs. It is so confusing. If you just put div everywhere, for example, like this, right? If you just put div, it becomes very difficult to understand what is going on in the code. So this is what semantic tags are. Right? So again, you can probably tell by now, right? This div setup is insane, doesn't make any sense. You don't, the code does not mean anything like this. It is extremely confusing. That is what it is. So instead of this, what the team came up with, as you can see on the screen now, is a much better approach. which is just rename divs to more meaningful terms. So we have header, which contains, again, this will contain what we put out over here, for example, this thing, right? So header will then contain, for example, your H1, it will contain a paragraph, maybe a button. All right. So let's say we put a buy now, for instance, this becomes your header, and then you can put style it differently, put a whatever this is. Nav can actually be before the header, so it can be the first thing on the page. This will contain a few links, for instance. So there can be, I think we have 3 links there. So this will make up a nav, you can see, right? So this becomes a nav bar, this becomes our header. And then we have, other sections like so. So let's put these paragraphs one by one. And, we can just put HRs for now, just to visually differentiate things. And now you will see our page looks so much better overall. It just adds a lot more, understanding overall. And this is how we put different parts of the text together. So of course, it will not be the same content everywhere. Here there'll be product, then feedback, then offer, something like that, and then footer at the end, right? So this is how you create an entire proper valid HTML page at the end of the day. So you use all of these semantic tags, put it all together, and that becomes our entire web page. So now once everything is put together, this will look like a very realistic page. We have links, we have headers, we have sections, and then we have footer. Of course, this will change. You can add media, you can add tables and forms, all of those things you already know. Right? We have already discussed. So you can, of course, add everything. So yes, instead of divs, we use article section. You can also use div somewhere, like, in one level you can use it. It's fine. So let's say instead of article, if you want to use div, it's fine because it's not confusing anymore. But if you use only div, that is confusing, right? So that's the idea. We can use a combination of all of these tags, right, to get the output that we are looking for. Perfect. So this is how this is the boilerplate. This entire thing is the boilerplate. Now, what Visual Studio Code does is it makes our jobs a lot easier and it gives us a ready-made boilerplate. So if I just create another page about.html, this again a blank HTML page. So if you have installed Visual Studio Code, all you need to do is use the exclamation and tab, and you will see this will give us the entire boilerplate. Again, I'll show you once again. We just have to put exclamation and hit enter, or exclamation and tab. This gives us the entire boilerplate. We'll just talk about this tag in 1 minute. But other than this, everything else we have discussed. Right? We know HTML is the opening, closing. Then we have the head, then we have the body. And then, of course, inside body, we can make our nav, then we can make header, footer, everything else as required. Again, this is not needed right now. So we can get this with a single letter, which is exclamation mark and tab. This gives you the starting point of an HTML code, right? Perfect. One last thing in the boilerplate is something called the doc type. Okay, there's a tag called the doc type. This tag is a special tag. It looks like this. Okay. And what this tag does is, let me just zoom in a little bit, right? So this is a special tag, and this tag, what it does is it tells the browser which version of HTML is being used in this document, right? It does not tell that the document type is HTML. That is misleading. But instead, what it does is it tells which version of HTML is being used. Okay, I'll show you an example. So let's go for HTML4 doc type. So the latest version of HTML is HTML5, and this doc type is for HTML5, right? If you go to HTML4, you can see the doc type looks like this. Okay, it's a very long thing, as you can see here. This was the doc type for HTML4, as you can see, right? HTML 4.01. So this was a very big thing, and it was not necessary. So again, with HTML5, the team decided that let's make it very simple, and all you have to do is just put doc type HTML. This will refer to the latest version of HTML, which is 5. On the other hand, for example, if you have a previous project, let's say that your company made a project 10 years ago, 15 years ago, which is still using the older HTML. So then you will find a doc type like this in the code. This will indicate HTML4. Similarly, HTML3 had a different doc type, HTML2 had a different doc type, the original HTML1 also had a different doc type, but HTML5 doc type looks like this. So again, the doc type tag, what it does is it specifies the version of HTML. right? It specifies which version of HTML is used in this particular document or in this particular file. That is the document type, the doc type, and that makes up our boilerplate, right? So as I told you earlier also, this image itself, this indicates the HTML5 boilerplate. So we start with the doc type, then we have the opening, closing HTML, then we have the head, and then the body. So again, I have put all the tags on the screen also just for your reference. So you have the doc type tag, then HTML, then head, right? So you have head, which can then have title, then body, and body contains the rest of these tags. So header, footer, article section, nav, all of these tags are available inside the body because again, that is the content that the user can see, right? Perfect. And yes, any questions in this? So this is it, more or less, in terms of the topic. This is it. Next up, I have a challenge for you guys. So I'll show you an output and I want you to try to create that, code. So I will give you a screenshot on the screen. Like I'll show you a screenshot and I'll give you 5 minutes. I want you to try to replicate that or build it with me. You will tell me step by step what to do and I will, make it on the screen, right? So yes, let's go ahead and, take questions if there are any in this, and then we'll move to the challenge. Yes, so again, whoever is the username iPhone 8, I'm stopping after every topic. I'm asking you if you have questions. And I'm also asking you to say if it's clear or not. So I am doing everything from my side to make sure everybody is understanding it. If you don't understand it, you can ask it when I say, do you have any questions? Please say, repeat the topic, sir, and I will repeat it. I've been repeating every topic anyway. So yes, I hope that that makes it clear. Um, so yes, Graneshwari, the output for article is empty. It is exactly the same as a div. So there is no output as such for an article tag. Unless you put some content inside it, by default, it's a div, so it's empty output. Semantic and non-semantic. So Karthik, semantic tags are tags that have a special meaning, right? So semantic tags have a special meaning. For example, header means something. It means it is the first part of the page, or footer means it is the last part of the page. That is what semantic tags are. Non-semantic tags basically don't mean anything, like div. Div doesn't mean anything. It is just a container. So that is non-semantic, right? Yes. So the version of HTML that we're using right now is HTML5. That's the latest HTML version, which is what we're using. Okay, there are a couple of questions about the meta tags. So let me quickly tell you about that. Again, we'll not be using meta tags in our setup because again, we are not making it for search engines. That will happen with a marketing team. As a developer, you are just told to add the meta tag, but the marketing team usually decides which tags are to be added, and all of that is a marketing thing. But yes, to add a meta tag, we add it in the head of our HTML document, and it looks like this. It's a self-closing tag. So we have meta like this. Then depending on what you need to add, you add it. For example, if the marketing team says we need to add keywords, so we can say, for example, meta name equal to keywords, right? So this is the name of the meta tag, and then we put content is equal to, and then we put, I think instead of name, we put title. Yes. So we put meta title equal to keywords, and then content can be HTML5, web development, online training, something like this, whichever keywords describe our web page. So this is what a meta tag looks like. We have a title, what it is, and then the content, right? So similarly, we had a couple of other things. There is one meta tag which we will need for the viewport. Again, it's a CSS thing, so we'll get to that in CSS. I know there's a lot of stuff that I'm telling you we'll do later, but it is important that we just understand the setup for now. We'll discuss everything one by one. So this is your meta tag. And again, this is the entire boilerplate. So for people who are still confused about the boilerplate, like I was telling you, just like every programming language has certain rules and guidelines to follow, HTML also gives us a couple of rules. So HTML says that the first tag on any page should be the doc type tag, which looks like this. And it should basically specify which version of HTML is being used. This doc type. So this tag doctype and HTML, this tells the browser that we are using HTML5, which is the latest version of HTML. And this exclamation mark is necessary. This is a special tag. Then we have the HTML tag. This is the entire page. So everything in the page goes between the opening and the closing HTML. And then inside this, we have head, okay, and then the body. So again, head contains all the backend stuff like meta, like title, which the users will never see. So everything that has got nothing to do with the users, that will go in the head. And then everything that is visible to the user, that will go inside the body. So for then sections, for example, let's say we have 2, 3 sections. So we can just put those in. And so section, you can put article or section, up to you, and then footer. So this is generally how a blank web page looks like. And then we go ahead and we add the relevant things. So we'll add links. Inside header, we'll have a background image, some other content. Sections will have the respective content. Footer will have copyright information, so on and so on. So this is the boilerplate, this blank dummy thing which will not give us any output. If I open it now, we will not get any output. Right? This is your boilerplate. So as you can see, this does not give us any output right now because there is no text in it. There is no content in it. We don't have any text, no media, no audio, video, nothing is there. So this is the bare minimum basically that we need to write to create a valid web page. That is the boilerplate, right? Perfect. Now, like I said, I have a quick challenge for you. And again, I'll take more questions after the challenge. So I hope now you have understood everything, right? We have also recap. I have also given you a quick recap again. And yes, so yes. So now here is the challenge for you, right? I will give you, so what I will do is I will make it with you step by step. I will open VS Code and I will make it with you. But what you need to do is to tell me step by step what to do, right? So what I will do is I will open a new file. Let's use this file. I think this is fine. We can use about.html. And what I will do is I will want you to tell me step by step which tag to use for which, for which part. And then we'll go ahead and work with it. So let's start with the very first thing, right? Setting up the template. How do we set up the template? Do you remember the shortcut I told you? If yes, put it in the chat. What is the shortcut for template? For the boilerplate, basically. Perfect. So we have the exclamation and the tab, right? This gives us access to the boilerplate. Let me just set this. Yes. So as you can see, this boilerplate is available. Again, this is not needed. These are not needed for now. This is what we have discussed and this is enough for now. Perfect. Now let's work with the body. So let's say that we want to create this in one block, right? We want one full block on the page, which will be this. So think of this like a course ad, right? Something like that. So how do we create that block? Which tag can we use to create this block? So by block, I mean this white thing, right? This entire thing where other content will come in. So think of it as a container or a block for the content. Which tag can we use for that? Yes, we can use a div, but just like what we have discussed right now, div is not exactly meaningful for a single purpose. Yes, but ideally we should use section or article. Okay, one of the two. Prefer using semantic tags over non-semantic tags. So we should ideally prefer either a section or an article tag. Right? So yes, div will work fine, no problem. But still, we should prefer semantic tags. Right? Perfect. Great. Now the next part is the image, right? So how do we add the image? Now I wanted to write the entire code down. So what are the attributes in the image tag that we need, and how do we go ahead and add the image? You can take a minute and write the code in the chat for the image tag. So what is the image tag that we use, that we have along with the attributes also? So how do we put the link, or where do we put the link and all that? The entire tag, the complete tag, you can give it to me in the chat. Till then, I will just find an image to put. So I will just, pick anything from that. I'm sure that image was also probably I've taken it from here only, but still I will just copy the address from here. Perfect. Let's look at some of the responses now. Yes, perfect. So we have image, source, and alt. They are mandatory. So image is a self-closing tag, so it closes like this. Then we have source of the image and then the alt, right? So this could be computer code. Again, just some random thing, and I will put the source over here. We discussed um, two other attributes also, two additional attributes also. What were those? Perfect. We had the height and width. So we can just set the width over here and the height will automatically be set. So 500 pixels. Perfect. The image shows up. Looks more or less the same. Great. Let's move to the next part. So which tag do you think this one is? Again, you can just put this in the chat. Which tag do you think this line of text is? H1, perfect. It is the H1 tag, so that will go under the image, right? So like so, and this is hands-on guide to uh, interactive coding. Oh, done. This is our heading. Let's refresh and check. Perfect. Looks good. H1. So far so good. Great. Now let's move to the next part. So again, the font is different. No worries. We are just focusing on the text now. So which tag do you think this one is? It's the P tag. Perfect. So let me just put that in now. So P tag, and this is ready to implement, code exercises. Done. And now let's quickly move to the next line. So which tag do you think this one is? This one? Okay, a couple of different answers, but yes, this is also a P tag. And since they are on two different lines, we can use two different P tags. You could also use a BR here and add it in the same P tag, but since it's a different thing, we can probably have a separate P tag. So rupees and 30% off, something like this. Perfect. Now you'll also see the rupee symbol being used. Unfortunately, there is no character entity available for that, but we can just get the rupee symbol and copy paste it. So if you can just copy the rupee symbol, just you can just select it like this and just paste it. So this will work fine. Okay, so this is how you add a rupee symbol. You just copy it from anywhere and paste it, and you will see it will show up. Right? Perfect. So this is done. And let's move to the last part. So there are two things here. What are these and which tag do we need for this? Also specify the attributes, right? Also tell me the attributes that we have to put. Perfect. So these are links, right? So that is the A tag. Perfect. And the first is, I think, preview and buy now. Perfect. So one is preview, one is buy now. Okay, and done. And then the attribute is href. Again, we'll not go anywhere for now. So I'll just put a hash, which is an empty link. One final question. Let us say that the preview link, right? Let us assume that the preview link should open up in a new tab. Buy now can directly load the same in the same page, but the preview link should open up in a new tab. Which attribute can we specify and what value can we specify to open it in a new tab? Target, perfect. And what is the value that we use? Underscore blank, correct. So we don't use blank, but we use underscore blank, right? So it looks like this. So target is equal to underscore blank. This will open it up in a new tab, right? Let me check. So preview, as you can see, it will not go anywhere, but it still opens up a new tab. So this is good. Perfect. So this is a sample, a simple HTML code that we have written, which is a perfectly valid HTML document, right? So all the way from the doc type to the head and the body, we have used the boilerplate and we have created this HTML challenge. Perfect. Well done. This means that we have enough knowledge about HTML to now move to the next language from the next session, which is CSS. Right. So yes, again, we have discussed tables, forms, we've discussed all of those things. We'll keep discussing things as and when we progress. But yes, that is, what we have. Now, before we wrap up today and before I take more questions, I have three questions for you. So for people on Zoom, I will launch a poll. Please answer it in the poll. For people on YouTube, you can see the question on the screen. Please answer it on the screen. So I'm launching the poll for the first question. For people on Zoom, please answer it on the poll now. YouTube people, you can see the question on the screen. Please answer it in the chat. I'll wait for a minute. There are still about 30% people have answered on Zoom, so I'll wait for another minute. Let's see if everybody answers it, and then we'll discuss the correct answer. Okay, great. So the correct answer is option 2, right? Option 2, which is the HR tag, right? HR is the correct answer. So yes, most of you did answer with HR. Well done. Here is the second question. So again, the same setup for people on Zoom. I am launching a poll. For people on YouTube Live, you can see the question on the screen. Please answer it in the chat. So here we go. So yes, for people on Zoom, the poll is now available. Please answer it on the poll. Okay, perfect. So the correct answer for this one is option one, which about 70% of you got right, input, right? So input is what we use to take input from the user. Again, we have seen this. We have input type text, type email, type password, input type date, color. There are so many types of inputs. So that is the correct answer. Here is the last question for this part. Again, I'm launching a poll for the people on Zoom, and for people on YouTube Live, you can answer it in the chat. Yes, the poll is now live. Please take a minute, think about it carefully, and then answer. This is a tricky question, so please think about it very carefully and then answer. Okay, perfect. So yes, the correct answer here is option. Hold on, second. Yes, the correct answer is option three, right, or option C, which is TD. So yes, that can be used to add an individual table value. Table is the outer container, TR is the entire row. Head does not belong to a table, so TD is the correct answer. Perfect. Well done. Most of you have got this one right as well. And yes, that tells me that HTML is starting to make sense now, and we are now able to understand the basic flow and working of HTML. It's very simple, right? We just need to know which tag is there for what purpose, and that's practically all there is to HTML. Basically, that is all, there is to HTML. So yes, hopefully that is now making sense. In the next session onwards, what we're going to do now is to jump to CSS, right? And we are going to focus on styling the page. So now that we have seen how to add all sorts of content, step by step, we'll decide how to add styles to this and also how to arrange things. So for example, typically we have things next to each other. We have, left, right, center. We have different types of arrangements. So all of that will happen with CSS. So that's the next language which we'll discuss from the next session onwards. Two very important things at this point. Number one, there will be an HTML assignment that is on the LMS. It will be uploaded to the LMS if it is not there already. You will have 7 to 8 questions, which are HTML questions, right? So just like what we did today with the challenge, I have given you screenshots. You have to replicate those screenshots, right? You have to write code to replicate those screenshots. That is there. So there are 7, 8 questions as far as I remember, 7 to 8 questions in that assignment. And again, you need to write the code and submit the assignment back on the LMS. It is not a practice thing that you download and practice on your own. You have to submit it and it will be graded. Right? There will be evaluation happening for that assignment. So please make sure that you do it properly. Of course, you can refer to different things, right? You can refer to um, W3 schools, you can refer to MDN, all of those things are fine because the screenshots are from my projects. So anyway, you will not find the code anywhere. You will have to write it on your own only. But yes, you can use reference definitely. So yes, they are custom outputs. So you cannot find ready-made code anywhere, right? Just giving you a heads up. Again, it will be available soon. I will share the link with you when it becomes available. And again, for all updates on the content and the sessions, please check the repository, right? So for people who have not seen this, people who joined late, I just shared this in the beginning of the session. I will just put this on the screen once again, right here. This is the GitHub repository for this particular course or this particular track. Everything about the sessions is available in this repository. Okay, the installation instructions are available in this link. The code files that we have written in the sessions are available in this link. The PPTs that I'm using in the sessions are available in this link. I will also be adding all the recording links in this link as well. So please make sure you copy this, take a screenshot, copy this link, do whatever it takes, but keep this link with you for this entire course. Whenever we do anything in the live session, it will be updated in this link itself, right? But of course, the assignment and all the evaluation will happen on TapTap, that is the LMS platform. But everything session related will be on this link. Okay. So please take a screenshot, right? You bookmark it, right? You copy paste it, whatever it is. I will put this in the chat also right now. So yes, I have put this in the chat a few times. Please make sure you again copy this and keep it with you at all times. And again, I will give you an update regarding the assignment. It should already be uploaded by now. If it is not uploaded, it will be uploaded by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I will let you know in the session once it is uploaded, right? There will be a deadline also, I think 2 weeks or so. We'll have a deadline of about 2 weeks so that you can finish it off properly, right? So yes, that is it for this particular session. Thank you so much, you guys, for attending. I hope this is clear. I hope HTML is now clear to you. Again, we are not, expected to be masters so far. We're just getting started. We'll cover more HTML along the way. But for now, I hope you know what HTML is, the basic structure, adding different types of content. I hope all of that is now clear, right? Perfect. So yes, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for attending. Make sure you copy the link. I will update today's code on that link in some time. You can check it out over there. And yes, that is it for this one. So have a great day. Let's meet in the next session and discuss CSS. So yes, bye-bye. See you in the next one. Oh, also, yes, make sure you fill in the feedback. The feedback link is already in the chat. Make sure you fill in the feedback before you leave. And yes, I'll see you in the next one.